Welcome to Act 2 You're On. Join us weekly at our studio roundtable as Rhonda, Kate, and Linda invite spectacular guests to weigh in on staying sexy, vibrant, and healthy. Launch your next great act with authenticity and purpose.
Summon your courage, superstar, and step into the limelight. So grab a coffee
or a martini,
and let's set the stage for a grand entrance. It's Act 2.
You're on.
Greetings, friends. I am Linda Ty, and I have the great pleasure of podcasting today with my two dynamic A2YO co-hosts,
Rhonda Garvin-Conaway.
And I'm Kate Levy, and we are also joined behind the scenes by our talented producer, Kathy Carswell.
So I am so thrilled to talk with Svetlana Sky today. I met Svetlana through Success Circles with Joseph Varghese, and I was fortunate enough to have her for one of my accountability buddies. She was amazing. I instantly fell in love with her zest for life, her curiosity, her sense of humor, and her creative spirit. As a painter, I am really in awe of what Svetlana has created. She calls it transformational painting. And we'll be talking a little bit about that as we go along. But before we do that, I just want to ask our listeners sort of, thinking about this episode today, have you ever met someone or saw something that was an idea that you had, but you never followed through? And now you're watching that someone else succeed at something you didn't give a chance to? What if you found a coach with a sort of really out of the box way to help you ignite your self-expression and realize your purpose? And you felt it in your gut that this was the right way, that this was something special about this coach. Would you follow your heart and your gut and follow through? If you're thinking, yeah, I would totally do that, and I've had that happen to me, then you're in the right place listening to the right podcast today. Svetlana Sky is a creative educator, serial entrepreneur, and author. Svetlana has been a New York restaurateur for 25 years, worked in the film industry, and board-certified anti-aging health practitioner. Svetlana is a creator of Sky Method, a modality of spiritual psychology which integrates expressive painting. It provides a visual expression from the unconscious mind that was hidden from your awareness. This process results in instantaneous shift, which creates a disappearance of fears, limiting beliefs, doubts, and barriers. Her work is the summary of a decade practicing internationally with groups and individuals. Svetlana helps men and women seeking more fulfillment to discover their life mission and overcome their biggest fears to act and live their dreams on purpose. So welcome, Svetlana.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much for being here. When I first went to your website and I watched the video of the process of taking that group through that group painting, and it was really, I cried. It was just so beautiful. It's like, this is so
stunning,
amazing. And one of those ideas that I've had in my brain, not exactly what you're doing at all, but like a sliver. And I was like, there it is. Somebody who had a sliver and then grew and learned and grew and adapted all these things and has made this beautiful creation of helping people really up-level themselves. So tell us a little bit more, Svetlana. Tell us wow, you made a shift from the film industry, from the restaurant industry. Tell us about that shift and what made you decide to be bold, go bold and do that.
Well, looking back, one of the biggest transitions that happened, I had moved from Soviet Union to United States. And that alone, not knowing language and starting from scratch, inspired a lot of things, but mostly because after living my entire life under so many boundaries and oppression and so many limitations, not being able to express myself, naturally, when I came here, I wanted to do everything. So being a painter, I painted, but didn't want to sell my art. So my husband and I at the time, we decided to open a bar. It was a hangout for painters and artists, cinematographers, poets, you name it. And it was in the middle of this village. So I kept being in a restaurant, but having background in film, I'm trained art director. That's my education in Soviet Union. We started a production studio and we filmed a lot of music videos and merch shows and documentaries. My interest to art and creativity was always my drive. So that's how I've been doing so many things. People ask me how you do all of this. And I was like, how can you not do all of this when you can? Because I knew how not to be able to. And when you really have all those freedoms and all those opportunities, is just very inspiring.
It is. But it is something about you that made you say, yeah, I'm going to do it. I have these talents. I have these skills. I'm going to do it. I think for a lot of us, maybe we have them, but we're not so sure. Or the fear of failure, maybe that if this idea may or may not work out, holds us back, even though we may have those abilities to do it. So, what are your thoughts on that? Like you just said, I'm doing it.
I'm very fortunate that from very early on, I was able to be exposed to art and practice art and being an artist. So going to altered states of mind, meditation and art as meditation provides you access to more than the eye meet. And when this connection happened and established, and that's what I teach people to do. Once you establish this connection, it doesn't break, it doesn't go away. You always have that access to your limitless resources and to the realm which is greater than you are. And you can always use it as your source. Then fear doesn't exist there. The reservations, what comes from intellectual mind, don't belong there. So it's only inspiration, curiosity, love. So what if you fail? It's like you get really upset when you're building sand castles and the wave comes and wash it off. You'll start a new one. It's a joyful experience. So if you really embark on a journey to experience everything in its purity as a creative, as a child, as a spirit, then fear doesn't belong there. And that's why you try, you fail, and you love it.
That's a really profound way to put that. I love it. I think that's really important. I like the sandcastle. Failure is a part of expression, and going out there. It's not a failure. It's just okay. So now we'll do something different, or do it again, or whatever the case may be. So I think that is a good transition into. I really want to know. I'd love to have you share with our listeners. What is the Sky method? What is that about?
Well, the Sky method came naturally. I had my own reservations when I was practicing many things. That seems to be very eclectic. And I remember how Steve Jobs said in his book that after time, you're able to connect the dots. When enough time passed and I was able to look at all the skills that I was gathering, besides the painting and art history business, and then entrepreneurship, when you invent, which doesn't exist, and then Ayurvedic medicine, all kind of things related to health and wellness, hypnosis, NLP, meditation, you name it. I had realized that this is not eclectic at all. I was creating something that didn't exist, and all those things becomes components. I just didn't see it at a time. And all of them became useful in creation of the Sky method, which is a pathway, creating that pathway to that source, to that inner resources, if you will, to your higher self, whichever way, to the universe, whichever way people will identify it for themselves. That connection, when it's created, it doesn't fall apart. It's like neural connections that we create in our mind by practicing things over and over again, making them habitual, almost like a body memory. That's that kind of thing. But I took it farther and allowed people to go specifically to the area of their mind which is not attainable for some reasons. And we don't need to know those reasons because we know of existence of those blind spots when something doesn't work. We're trying something over and over again, and we're stepping on the same, problem over and over again. And it's an indication of something that is being disconnected. So for Sky Method, I'm able to guide people specifically to that area of their site where they can explore that. And the beauty of it, that as a result, they have a document, a painting that documents that experience. So taken from subconscious mind, brought into the intellectual mind, gives you an opportunity to look at it, analyze, intellectualize, and actually deal with it. Or very so often I see how when invisible things become visible, brought into awareness, the issue disappears itself just because of that awareness. This is no labors process. It's not labors. You just become aware of something and thus it's gone and moving to the next thing. But you have a document that becomes a document of your personal victory, if you will, because that painting is a reminder of that process and of that victory. People have to keep them.
Very inspiring. So are you working with people individually as a coach? Is it live or is it workshops, retreats? How do people access the Sky method and get to work with you?
I'd love to work with people in person, and I love to work with groups, just because groups create an environment, a very supportive environment, where people carry each other to their victories and they learn from each other's experience. I've been doing this remotely as well on Zoom. I love working with groups, but I do take individual clients. I've done a lot of work for New York Public Library and Educational Alliances and Kingsborough College for the foreign students. And group work is absolutely joyful. I teach on Zoom, what we do now. Until the next thing, right?
That's great to know.
Yeah.
I was really interested in hearing you talk about fear and then how that plays into the Sky Method process. And we know that fear is solidified by limited beliefs that we bring to our life experiences. I'm curious about when you're meeting with individuals or groups of people, how do you coach them along with the limited beliefs they may have about maybe even entering in an experience with a paintbrush or painting or using different mediums? How do you coach them? What kinds of things would you say or encourage them to do to break through those limiting beliefs?
The beauty of Sky Method, we do not talk about anything personal. I am not interested in any details. The beauty of it, that people keep their privacy, their dignity. They don't have to disclose anything unless they like to. However, we are not talking about, we're actually not conversing much, because when you go into meditative state and you really turn your attention inwards, what happened is the intellectual mind quiets down. And as we know, all the fears and all the doubt comes from that realm. So once people are present with self, with who they really are, there is no fear there. And it's an opportunity for them to express how they really feel about something. What is the priority? What is something that is unique and authentic to them, not something learned, influenced by from outside, by anybody, anything. And that becomes hugely valuable for people, because that alone, that knowledge that comes from within, eliminates all the fear and doubt, because people gain the confidence of that knowledge, that that is something that is they certain about. We know that, doubtful behavior, when people are making effort and then they retrieve it, or self-sabotage or failure of success, that is just taking out of the picture by the process itself. And plus the privacy is very important, because people don't have to share anything, and that helps them to be self-expressed. The only thing that they create is their painting. So they're using their body as an instrument, they're using media as an extension of their body, and they're expressing whatever they got through meditative state and guided imagery on canvas. What they create becomes highly symbolic and personal to them. They may want to discuss this or not. It's up to them. But during the discussion, when we speak about the painting and not about the person, it gives them additional freedom to talk about the painting, to talk about the elements of the composition, the relationship between the colors, the mannerism of the application of the paint. And that becomes points of attention for people to discover what is the relationship between the categories that they had in mind that now represented in colors. And it helped them to decipher that. Do you explain it?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh. I'm sort of, this is the visual that's coming to me anyway. And I just, in my own personal experience as an artist, your art is so much better when you forget about what you know and you just immerse yourself in the experience. So you're working from this very intuitive place and you're not working from the judgment place.
Absolutely.
And so I think it's really brilliant what you've put together, because to have people working from that intuitive place, and not just as an individual working from that intuitive place, but if I'm surrounded by other people who are drawn to the same process, right, then I know we share some kind of kinetic, psychic energy, right? And so we are spiritually, sort of energetically bringing out these things in ourselves together. And so I would imagine then looking at it as a painting, it's not talking about myself personally, but it's like things that I'm going to see in that painting or things that other people see in the painting that are going to help me understand myself better. I love that.
You just said something very important, Linda. You as a painter have a natural innate ability to go into meditative state and come back. But people who do not have that experience or who were stopped as children, it's not your talent. You're better in math or basketball, whatever it is, whatever ideas were put on children without letting them express themselves. Look, we had been painting as humans from what? We have cave paintings. It's the most natural way for humans to express themselves. So if somebody wants technique, they can get up in the morning, paint for 10 hours, and in some years they will get the technique. But what makes impression on us is when somebody really put their soul and it has an emotional impact on us, and we don't care what technique it is. We still come back to paintings that makes emotional impact. And it doesn't have to be technically skilled. That's why children paintings are so touching to us. So having this in mind, just the idea that you can take an individual who doesn't have an experience, naturally go into meditative states where everything is available. The highest wisdom is available. Any answer to any question is available, but they just don't know how to do that. You take them there and it becomes part of their skill.
Your method just sounds so fascinating. And actually, it's the arts that brought all of us together. So you're getting lots of nods. And we're totally digging what you're saying. It is interesting in troubled times how art seems to thrive. And it sounds like your method allows people to be completely and fully present and to go inward, which doesn't often happen in a world where we're constantly overstimulated, but then to give them permission or this modality that they might have never experienced and an outward expression that comes from that deep journey within. It's just what a gift to the world. And there's nothing like someone experiencing an art form they didn't know was available or accessible. And really what you're allowing people is just to find a way to kind of connect with what's, divine within them and giving them a canvas, whether it's an actual canvas or it's whatever is the artistic modality. But your method seems like, it's so important to what the world is going through right now, to give people opportunities to be quiet, to go inward, and then find a way to express. It's very healing.
Yeah.
I wanted to bring another interesting point that when I worked with the groups, imagine let's say a group of co-workers working on the same task and the same goal, and how we separated by language. When we say a word and everybody imagines something else, right? So I had created experiences for groups of people working on the same goal to paint out that goal so they were able to see with their eyes what other person views. And what interesting to the artists are very protective over their workspace. But when people paint in collaboration, they go from place to place, they switch, they contribute to each other's painting. And it's absolutely stunning because there's no separation. They create that common vision and everybody has a space there because it's limitless. So there's no need to protect the physical space of the painting. It's very stunning to observe during this process.
That is really incredible.
I know. We all want to get in the car right now.
We do. I know. We're all imagining like, yeah, we're going to do an A2YO field trip.
We can do it on Zoom.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
I wanted to mention that video that you saw at the new museum where 20 of my students painted. That day, when the curator invited us to the gallery of the new museum on Bowery Street, we decided that we're going to create a meditation and create that space where everybody unites their creative potential and paint as one person. And at the end of the video, you see this 40 feet long mural, that huge wall.
Yeah.
That those people painted. And maybe just a couple of them are trained artists, my friends. And other people, just regular people, they're not painters, but they were able to create that very uniform mural as was painted by one person. And that is the result of that process.
It's stunning.
Yes, I really appreciate that because it's a great gift to acknowledge that people have been painting since the beginning of time, right? Since humans started with their etchings on the walls. And this is something that exists in all of us. And you have created an opportunity for folks to enlist that within themselves, using meditation and the arts really the vehicle to know themselves better. How do you juggle what you're doing with other people in your own personal art and your own aspirations as an entrepreneur and a small business owner? Tell us what that looks like.
There were times in my life when I was late to events, meetings, and I took a hard look at what made me be late, and I realized I just don't want to go there. So I stopped being late, because if you create for yourself activities that you cannot wait to join, would you be late? Would you not have time to do them? Will you get tired? If you create for yourself things that you're really excited about, you'll manage all of it. You'll find time. You'll create time for that.
That's a fine point. That's a great point. Mm-hmm.
I think what's important for women, especially for women, because a lot of times I was thinking, how is it specific for men? Because what stimulates men doesn't necessarily stimulate women, because we are not thriving on stress. We thrive on beauty, on pleasure, on self-care. And when we have all those components, we can benefit everybody. We can generate lots of love and care. But that environment, when we focus on that, and it comes from within, if we nurture that and create for ourselves as women that beauty, that self-care, that attentiveness to how we feel, that is what releases that drive, that unlimited creativity. And I pay a lot of attention to that.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Like as in regards to women, because men and women are different. I know that you work with men and women, but about that stressful environment, how does working in a stressful environment specifically affect female well-being?
Well, women innately, by nature, do not respond well in stress. Men, their testosterone goes up when they get stressed. So it's good for them. It's beneficial for them. It's the warriors. So it stimulates their growth. For women, everything stressful represses our divine feminine, our creative part, our nurturing part, because we cannot live productively, successfully, happily under stress or scarcity. So here's the dilemma for women who dealing with everyday life. Like I have to tell you, at one point I've been managing 4 restaurants. We had about 300 employees. I must tell you, it was stressful. But the balancing and paying attention to this, that self-awareness, elimination of things that do not belong. When my daughter was born, And I made a commitment to contribute my time just to raising her. And I stopped working in the restaurant. Like I work now behind the scene, back of the house, structuring, managing. I do not work in the restaurant anymore. And to me, it was like, I don't have to do things that contribute to my stress.
So what I'm hearing too is the Sky method is a pretty extraordinary experience for women because how we access our higher selves, right? Our best, who we are. And I think that we don't give ourselves permission to do it through nurturing and through self-care and through creative endeavors, because I think the industrial age has just put us in this mindset of like, education, job, like, getting to the top. And we're sort of so influenced by that we have lost a little bit of that, divine feminine in our culturally. And you are bringing the divine feminine back into our culture.
It's very interesting that you put it in this way, because I came to a realization when my daughter was born that what I was doing and what I was committed to do, becoming a mother, there were three major areas that nobody but women can do best: is feeding people, educating people, and healing people. Those are the things that women created to bring in the world. And we are the first teacher, we're the first nourishers, and we're the first healers at home. But when you expand this to your community, to the world. You bring beauty, you feed people, and you educate people. And when women do what they purposefully supposed to do, they healthy, they happy, and they happy with how they express themselves.
And it brings balance to the world, which surely we see evidence that it's needed. So this is a conversation so rich in wisdom. I'm wondering if we can shift, Svetlana, to this segment that we call the golden nuggets. So you've already offered us lots of great advice, but I wonder if there's something specific that you could offer to our folks who are listening, who are at a point of transition or getting ready to launch their next great act that might be helpful for them and for us.
I had a teacher, an art teacher, my mentor, who said to me that you have to love yourself. And I asked him, what is that to love yourself? How do you love yourself? What does it mean? He was my painting teacher. And he said, to love yourself is to find within you that part that is a spiritual part, that is your essence. And once you find that part, you will fall in love with it. And you will find that part in every other person, and you will love them. And that's how you do it. When you find that place and you see it in every other person, there is no fear, there is no doubt. You learn how to nurture that and how to live that. And if something worth an effort, I think that's worth an effort to discover that, to love yourself.
Well, It certainly is evident that you are living that out with the work you're doing with the Sky method. And I think we're all receiving the benefits of that. And I'd love to, again, take that field trip and experience it firsthand, or take the Zoom, which is great for all of us to know, to get in touch with what that essence is for ourselves so we can love other people as well. With that in mind, we're going to be moving forward in our conversation to wrap things up. But before we do, we'd like to know a little bit more about what's coming next for you, Svetlana.
So right now, I'm in the process of finishing a book about Sky Method. And besides instructions that I will put out so people can practice at home, because it's not complicated once you gather the understanding of the process. But also, it's going to be illustrated by beautiful paintings that people created with me over time, and some miracles that happened in their lives, which are quite inspirational and absolutely magical. And I am such a big, I hunt magic. During that process, a lot of magical thing happens, like conception of a child that been waited for a long time, or people paint places where they haven't been. They paint scenes from the future, and then those things happen. So it's a lot of miraculous things happening. So I'm illustrating this book with those paintings and original stories, the letters that people wrote to me. So it's quite extraordinary.
Oh, sounds amazing.
We can't wait to see that. Incredible.
Oh, well, we cannot thank you enough, Svetlana, for joining us today. And we're so grateful for this conversation, so grateful for your amazing wisdom. Really been a gift to our minds, our hearts, and our spirit. So thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with all of you. Thank you.
And we know people are going to want to learn more about you. And so they can do that at skymethodworks.com. And when you go there, you'll hear some of these amazing stories. You'll see some of the artwork that folks have created and the stories that behind them. It's really an inspiring website. So you'll want to go there. That's skymethodworks.com. Or you can also find her, Svetlana, on Facebook.
Yes. And we really appreciate that. We'll check her out there. And we want to extend our thanks to Kathy Carswell, our amazing producer behind the scenes, making it all possible for us to be here today.
And so I think it is left for me to say, go forth, be brave, live well, and do good, because it's Act 2, you're on.
Act 2 You're On was brought to you by Act 2 Share Our Stage.
You can find us at a2yo.com and also on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Please listen and subscribe wherever you find your podcast. You can support us using Patreon. Thanks for listening.